Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really dig into the source material and pull out the crucial insights, the things you need to know.
Making sense of it all.
Exactly. And today, we're looking at the journey of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., quite a path, from his early days right up to becoming the 46th president.
Yeah, a long and complex road.
We've gone through a whole stack of biographies, historical accounts, trying to piece it together. And our mission, really, is to see how things like, well, personal tragedy, those political setbacks he faced, and his focus on certain issues over time, how all that shaped him into this figure known for, endurance, empathy, experience.
It's that mix, isn't it? The personal and the public.
It really is. The sources keep hitting these themes: grit, dealing with grief, and then finding that grit again. He's often painted as this figure of survival, of service, and, well, someone who just keeps getting back up.
Again and again, yeah.
So let's explore those moments, the big milestones and the tough challenges that really defined that long road to the White House.
And I think what's fascinating in these accounts is seeing that interplay. You mentioned the individual resilience alongside this constant thread of public service.
Right.
We're not just listing dates. We want to get into the why. Why were these events so significant? How did they build this national figure?
Understanding the impact.
Exactly. Connecting that personal story to what it means for leadership, especially when facing, huge challenges. It's a powerful lens.
Okay, so let's start digging in. His early years, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 1942, that's the standard info. But the sources, they point to the family's financial struggles back then. That seems to have laid some groundwork.
Definitely a foundational piece.
And maybe even more important was his struggle with a stutter. A really severe one, apparently. Overcoming that took, well, sheer persistence. That wasn't just some childhood thing, was it? How do the sources frame that?
Oh, it's crucial. They aren't just footnotes. The sources really dig into how the money worries, combined with that very personal, very difficult battle with the stutter. It forged a certain kind of perseverance in him.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about getting through it. It seemed to have built this deep patience, maybe an understanding of how hard communication can be, and just a sense of struggle. That personal strength, the sources suggest, is where that grit really started.
And it's that grit, that foundation, that makes what comes next just so incredibly impactful. 1972, he gets elected to the Senate. He's only 29, one of the youngest ever.
An amazing achievement at that age.
An amazing achievement. But then, just weeks later, tragedy strikes. His wife, Nelia, and their baby daughter, Naomi, are killed in a car accident. His sons, Bo and Hunter, are badly injured.
Unimaginable.
The sources say he nearly quit politics right then and there. It was a crucible moment, and it becomes so tied to his public identity, doesn't it? What do the accounts say about how he navigated that, starting this huge career amidst just devastating personal loss?
Yeah, that period is absolutely central to understanding him politically and personally. The sources are very clear that resilience, forged in terrible grief right at the start of his public life, that's what shaped this man of grit, grief, and grit again idea.
He chose to stay?
He chose to stay. Instead of stepping back, he commits to public service and to his sons. That famous commute, taking the train back and forth from Delaware to D.C. every day.
Right, the Amtrak commute.
That act alone really cemented this image of deep commitment to family, yes, but also to the job he'd just been elected to. It shows how profound personal hardship can become part of your public story, shaping how you connect, how you show empathy. Few could have done that.
That decision led to, well, an incredible 36 years in the Senate, a very long tenure.
Decades.
And during that time, the sources point to consistent themes: foreign affairs, criminal justice issues, though some of that looks different in hindsight, and importantly, leading the charge on the Violence Against Women Act in 1994.
Fantasy was a landmark piece, yeah.
And the accounts often mention his kind of working class appeal, his ability to build relationships, even across the aisle. What was it about his approach, according to the sources, that made him known as a consensus builder back then?
Well, those 3+ decades weren't just about sticking around. The sources show him really becoming this bridge builder. And it wasn't flashy stuff. It was mastering the Senate's rules, the procedures, and crucially relying on personal connections.
The relationship side of things.
Exactly. He was apparently very adept at the slow, sometimes painstaking work of negotiation, of finding common ground, a style that maybe valued long-term relationships more than quick political wins. And that deep dive into foreign policy over all those years, chairing the Foreign Relations Committee, That gave him a truly global perspective, which obviously became incredibly important later. It marked him as someone who valued experience, diplomacy.
And all that Senate experience, that reputation, it leads directly to him being picked as Barack Obama's running mate in 2008.
Right, a pivotal moment.
And together, they faced just enormous challenges right out of the gate. The Great Recession, getting the Affordable Care Act passed, ending the war in Iraq, the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. A lot happened.
A packed 8 years.
And the sources often describe Biden during that time as the administration's kind of empathy ambassador. How did his background, his story, help him play that specific role during such high-stakes crises?
It's an interesting evolution, isn't it? President Obama was driving this message of change, hope. Biden found this complementary role, that ability to connect with people on a human level, which, as we've discussed, seems deeply rooted in his own life, his own tragedies. That became a real asset.
So Obama set the policy, Biden connected on the ground.
Often, yeah. The sources show him being sent to communities hit by disaster or facing economic hardship, offering comfort, showing the administration cared. It definitely reinforced his personal brand, showing that public service isn't just policy papers, it's also that human connection, especially when people are hurting.
Okay, so fast forward. He'd run for president before, unsuccessfully, back in the 80s, and again in 2008 before joining Obama. Then comes 2020, he runs again, this time against Donald Trump. He's 77.
And a lot of skepticism initially.
Right. A lot of observers, the sources note, doubted if he could connect with where the electorate was, how fast things were changing. But he centered his campaign on this idea of healing a divided nation, leading with empathy, relying on science, restoring alliances.
A very different message from his opponent.
And he wins, becomes the 46th president, the oldest ever elected. What do the sources point to as the key to that resurgence, that victory, despite all the doubts?
Well, that 2020 run really does feel like the ultimate example of that standing back up again and again theme. Despite past losses, despite the age questions, the sources suggest his appeal wasn't about being new or revolutionary. It was more about stability, maybe, a return to what felt like established norms for some voters.
Promise of steadiness.
Yeah, he positioned himself as the candidate of unity, experience, offering a clear contrast to the political climate of the time. And it raises that interesting question, when a country feels really divided, really shaken up, what does it mean when they choose a leader whose main calling cards are endurance and this long, long track record? It seems his victory tapped into a desire for a certain kind of leadership.
And since taking office, his presidency certainly hasn't lacked for challenges. You've got the ongoing COVID response, inflation, the economic recovery efforts, that very difficult withdrawal from Afghanistan, the war in Ukraine, plus domestic issues like gun violence, climate change.
A huge number of complex issues all at once.
His style is often described as calm, experienced, deliberate. But as the sources also point out, critics sometimes see that same deliberateness as being too slow, maybe out of step with how fast the world moves now. How do the accounts reconcile those different views?
That's a core tension you see in the sources, absolutely. His long experience, his careful, deliberative approach, these are seen by supporters as exactly what's needed, right? A steady hand in turbulent times. That view values deep institutional knowledge.
The wisdom of experience.
Right. But then other accounts frame that exact same approach as a potential weakness.
Yeah.
Is it too slow? Can it keep up with the pace of global crises, the urgency of domestic problems? It really highlights this ongoing debate about modern leadership.
Yeah.
How do you balance decades of experience with the need for, rapid action, especially when you're juggling so many complex things at the same time?
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, his legacy is obviously still being written, but the sources give us some interesting early takes. His whole journey, it really does show that pattern. Survival, service, getting back up. What does this long, sometimes very difficult path tell us maybe about leadership in America now? Because the sources do present this kind of dual view. Some paint him as the healer-in-chief, someone bringing empathy, decency back. Others see him as part of an older way of doing politics, maybe struggling to meet the demands of a country that's changing really fast.
Yeah, looking at the big picture, Biden's story is definitely a fascinating case study. It shows how personal strength built over a lifetime in the public eye can shape a leader, especially when facing these huge national and global storms. He really embodies a particular kind of political resilience, a belief in established processes.
Right.
And that leads to a really important question, I think, for you, the listener, to chew on after this. We live in this era of incredibly rapid change, deep political divides, constant calls for new answers. So what lessons can we actually draw from a career like his, shaped by more than half a century of both really tough personal times and this constant public dedication. What qualities, maybe even ones that seem a bit old-fashioned, now turn out to be the most vital for a leader navigating the world we live in today?